Just imagine blasting down the highway with no speed limit. Sounds like a gearhead's dream, right? Well, guess what? On Germany's Autobahn, that dream is a reality on many stretches, and their fatality rate is about half that of the US highway. Meanwhile, back here in the States, you're stuck behind a slow 55-mile-per-hour sign on an empty interstate, pulling your hair out and ready to jab your eyes. Are our speed limits totally broken, or do they save lives today? We're shifting into high gear to find out. What's up, everyone? Brad Danger here, and buckle up because we are about to floor it into the wild world of speed limits. We'll cover why speed limits actually exist, how the US ended up with everything from 55 to 85 mile per hour limits, and whether those numbers make any sense at all. We're talking history, science, wild driver behavior, Autobahn insanity, safety, insurance, climate, and the whole enchilada. And spoiler, things are gonna get spicy and a little controversial. And real quick, before we hit the gas, if you love going stupid fast, you gotta check out our WinThisIdealCar.com Ideal giveaway. We're giving away a 700 horsepower car, and you can enter for free. Don't miss out. Hit the link in the pinned first comment, and maybe you're gonna be the one that's blasting down the road in a 700 plus horsepower car. All right, ever wonder why those pesky speed limit signs even exist? It all comes down to safety, and higher speeds means longer braking distances and way more energy unleashed in a crash. Bumping from just 40 to 60 miles per hour doesn't just add a bit more speed. It more than doubles the energy your car must handle in a crash. Even advanced airbags and seatbelts struggle with the massive forces and high-speed impacts. Simply put, the faster you go, the harder you hit. And here is the grim truth. Speed does kill. It's no joke. About 29% of US traffic deaths in 2022 involved at least one speeding driver. That's over 12,000 lives lost in 1 year because of speed-related crashes. Hence, speed limits were introduced to keep speeds manageable and crashes survivable. But here's actually the twist. Everyone agrees on how to set safe speeds. For years, traffic engineers used the 85th percentile rule, setting limits based on how fast most drivers naturally travel, meaning 15% are always technically speeding. Critics now call this outdated, arguing it encouraged drivers to push limits even higher, often ignoring safety science. Interestingly, though, classic safety studies showed going much slower or faster than surrounding traffic increases crash risk, hence why uniform speeds are encouraged. But, and this is a big but, modern data clearly shows that higher speeds always means deadlier crashes. So, hitting triple digits on public roads? Probably the quickest way to test your airbags and see if your guardian angel can fly that fast. So how did the US end up with our current speed limits? Strap in for a history burnout because flashback all the way to 1974, countries knee-deep in a gnarly oil crisis. Gas prices soaring, Uncle Sam's freaking out and slaps a nationwide 55 mile per hour limit highway, dubbed the double nickel. Great idea in theory, but a total flop in practice. By the 80s, a mere 5 to 10% of drivers actually obeyed it. Everyone else flooring it. 65, 70, even 75, making the double nickel a punchline. The only folks cruising at 55 were probably in clunkers, barely capable of hitting 60. Who benefited? Lease departments and insurance companies cashed in. More tickets meant bloated insurance premiums and local governments filling their coffers. But did the speed cap even save gas? Barely. The Fed hoped for a 2% savings, but saw only a 0.5 to 1%, mostly because folks refused to slow down. Finally, in 1995, Congress said, enough, giving states back their speed limit authority. Cue the real need for speed era. Montana even experimented with no daytime limits, telling drivers just to be responsible and prudent. Predictably vague, but it got scrapped in 1999 for a concrete 75 mile per hour limit, immediately cutting excessive speeding by 85%. Today's speed limits, total patchwork. Texas rocks an 85 mile per hour toll road, fastest in the Western Hemisphere. Meanwhile, East Coast states often linger around 65. Urban freeways usually capped at 55 or lower, and it is still evolving. Some legislators want higher limits. Hello, North Dakota, at 80 miles per hour? Others argue for lower speeds to boost fuel efficiency and safety, like Vermont, seriously considering drop back to 55 miles per hour. So, buckle up. This speed debate isn't slowing down anytime soon. And I think we all need a reality check because are speed limits broken because everyone ignores them? Kinda. Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Who hasn't cruised 5, 10, or even 15 over the limit when conditions feel right? Practically everyone speeds sometimes. According to a recent AAA survey, nearly half of drivers, 49%, confessed to hitting 15 miles per hour over the freeway limit in the past month, and that's self-reported. Real numbers might be even higher. Even folks who say speeding is dangerous regularly push it. Truthfully, traffic often flows faster than posted limits. Ever tried strictly sticking to 65 miles per hour on California's I-5? You'll feel like a rolling speed bump, practically asking to be humped, or maybe even worse. The actual norms hover around 75 to 80. And here's the twist. If almost every driver is technically breaking the law, maybe the posted limits are unrealistic. Traffic engineers argue the safest and most effective limits match typical driver behavior. Set them too low, and you create a nation of rule breakers and speed traps. Many small towns notoriously set artificially low limits for ticket revenue, infamous speed traps. But hold on, before we revolt and demand limitless speeds, let's pop the brakes and consider the flip side. Because here is the hard truth. Physics don't care about your personal freedom. The faster we drive, the harder we crash, and the more lives that we'll lose. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety crunched 25 years of data, revealing a brutal pattern. Every 5 mile per hour increase in speed limits translates to roughly an 8% jump in fatalities. Since the mid-90s, higher speed limits have been tied to over 36,000 additional deaths in the US alone. Let that sink in for a sec. 36,000 lives potentially lost because we chose higher speeds. And think about it, a modest jump from 65 to 70 mile per hour saves barely 6 minutes on a 100-mile journey. Is shaving off a coffee break worth a 33% higher chance of a fatality in a crash? Those extra mile per hours aren't just numbers, they're families facing empty seats at holiday dinners. Sure, modern cars have advanced safety features like airbags, crumple zones, and lane assist. And yes, vehicles have become safer overall, reducing fatalities per mile driven. But increased speed limits undermine these gains. Not everyone is rolling in a safety-loaded new car. Higher speeds are especially deadly for pedestrians and cyclists. Urban areas nationwide, Seattle, Denver, New York City are lowering limits, seeing immediate reductions in crashes and improved safety. Yet on highways, the trend is opposite. Faster, riskier, and undeniably more dangerous. So, what's reasonable speed-wise? It's a question we can't afford to dodge. All right, time for a little Autobahn talk. You know the deal. No speed limits, blazing at 150 miles per legally. And guess what? German highways are safer than ours. Autobahn deaths per distance driven are roughly half the US rate. Mind-blowing, right? But hold your horsepower. Germany isn't safer because speed isn't dangerous. Physics still work at 150 miles per hour. Trust me. But because they engineered the roads differently. That's what's different. Smooth pavement, gentle curves, and constant maintenance. Ever hit a pothole at 70 miles per hour here? Imagine that at double the speed. Yeah, no thanks. Plus, Germans have to pass hardcore driving tests. Here, they essentially just give you your license. Lane discipline, it is a religion. Left lane passing only. Unlike here, you won't find somebody chilling at the limit, blocking traffic. Everyone plays by the same rules. Another big factor, Germany's strict vehicle inspections. Junkers with bad brakes or worn tires, not gonna happen. TÜV inspections every 2 years make sure everything's safe. And enforcement targets dangerous behaviors like tailgating, not speeding. Still, even Germans debate this. Over half actually want speed limits on the Autobahn due to safety and climate concerns. Unlimited Autobahn might be legendary, but it's not untouchable. Globally, most countries stick to around 70 to 80 miles per hour. The US is pretty typical, aside from Texas flexing at 85 miles per hour limit. Bottom line, speed is awesome, but safety needs the right setup. Germany, well, they nail it. Speed limits might seem arbitrary, but they're deeply linked to bigger issues like insurance, the environment, and infrastructure costs. Insurance companies pay more when crashes are severe. So, you think they'd prefer slower speeds. Yet they profit from speeders through higher premiums. Just one speeding ticket can hike your insurance by about 25%. It's a tricky balance. Insurers want fewer crashes to limit payouts, but also benefit financially when drivers get ticketed. Then there's the environmental impact. Higher speeds drastically increase fuel consumption due to aerodynamic drag. Optimal fuel efficiency is around 50 to 55 miles per hour. Going 70 or even 80 means significant higher fuel use. Lower speed limits during the 70s oil crisis aimed to conserve fuel. And today, advocates argue slower speeds can meaningfully cut greenhouse gas emissions, potentially nudging people towards biking or public transit for shorter trips. Infrastructure costs also climb with faster speeds. Roads wear out quicker, bridges endure more stress, and safety features become pricier. Designing highways for high speeds demands better pavement, more maintenance, and advanced engineering. Costs we all pay and share as taxpayers. Bottom line, speed limits aren't just for safety, they're tied to our wallets, environment, and our infrastructure. So, the 200 mile per hour question, are speed limits actually broken? Well, yes and no. Let's unpack this. Speed limits seem broken when they're set too low or enforced inconsistently, resulting in widespread non-compliance. When nearly everyone speeds, it signals that something's off. Either the limit feels unrealistic or the road conditions naturally encourage higher speeds. Safety advocates suggest setting speed limits scientifically based on crash outcomes rather than relying on outdated methods like the 85th percentile rule. Plus, smarter road designs, roundabouts, narrower lanes, speed bumps could naturally encourage drivers to slow down without needing constant enforcement. On the flip side, though, speed limits definitely aren't broken when they're set appropriately and enforced effectively. They save lives. Unlimited speeds aren't practical. Even Germany's famous Autobahn has limits on many sections and debates stricter enforcement. The data clearly shows higher speeds equal more fatalities. Physics and human reaction times remain unchanged. Thus, sensible limits are crucial. Maybe the question isn't whether speed limits are necessary, but how to set them correctly. Right now, many limits feel mismatched. Too low here, too high there, and don't always reflect vehicle capabilities or conditions. A smarter approach might be setting realistic limits backed by science, adjusting them dynamically as needed, and using intelligent road design to guide behavior naturally. So guys, what do you think about speed limits? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the vid, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. Also, you will love these vids over here. I'm Brad Danger. This is Ideal. Don't speed. See you next week. And promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.